Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narayanaya. Suklam Bharadaram Vitnam Sachivannam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashantaye Ananta Samsara Samudratara Naukaitabhyam Guru Bhaktidabhyam Vairagya Samrajyada Pujanabhyam Namo Namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam Anjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanasanam Kabhijamakshagantaram Vande Lankabhayankaram. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Yadangri Pangeru Garenu Lagnam Nipiya Neeram Vimalantarangagam Janami Tattvam Nijamatma Rupam Tam Naumi Narayana Kirtamaryam. Narayana Kirtamaryam. Namaskaram. Welcome to the 32nd session under Tarangam 4 of the opera Krishna Leela Tarangini. In the last session, namely the 31st session, we enjoyed Kaliya Sharanagati and Samharam of Dhenuka and his numerous minions who came to the Vanam in the form of jackasses, jackals, and other wild animals, as described in detail in Narayaniyam, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Krishna Leela Tarangini as well. They satisfied Gopalakas who ate the palm fruits to their heart's content in Dhenuka Vanam, which was already devoid and cleared of all undesirable elements. Finally decided to return to Gokulam, and as they were going along, they were singing the praise of Sri Krishna and Balarama. Sri Krishna and Balarama spent the night at Gokulam, got up early in the morning and drove the cows to the forest for grazing. The omniscient Balakrishna told the valorous Balarama and the Gopalakas that they should all go for a picnic to the enchanting forest known as BhanDeerakam. Naratirtha describes the prompting by Krishna, followed by a rare song where Sri Krishna exhorts Baladeva and all other Gopalakas, extolling the beauty of the BhanDeeraka Vanam and why they should visit that morning. Let us listen to the slokams 106 and 107 and also Geetam 40 that follows the invitation.
Ushitva Gokule Ratrau Ushitva Gokule Ratrau Balena Sangita Sukha Ushitva Gokule Ratrau Balena Sangita Sukham Ushasyuttaya Govindascha उषस्युत्ताय गोविन्दश्च उदयामास गावनो अद्य भाण्डीरकं नाम वनं यामो वयं मुदा इत्याह भगवान् बालान् बलश्च बलिनाम्बरम् बलश्च बलिनाम्बरम् राम राम विजरामो वयं राम राम विजरामो वयं राम राम विजरामो वयं रम्यवाण्डीरको वनमधुरा राम राम विजरामो वयं रम्यवाणीरको वनमधुरा राम राम विजरामो वयं राम रवि किरण दूरो रमणीय राम राम रवि किरण दूरो रमणीय सरोवर बहुलो राम राम रवि किरण दूरो रमणीय सरोवर बहुलो राम 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 वयं रम्यवाणीरकं वनमधुरा राम राम वयं चन्द्रकान्तोपल मणिवालुकं चन्द्रकान्तोपल मणिवालुकं चारुकर जनी सुन्दर सलीलं चारुकर जनी सुन्दर सलीलं चन्दन चम्पक मन्दार छाय चन्दन चम्पक मन्दार छाय तिमिर सूर्य मणिजालं जालं तिमिर सूर्य मणिजालं जालं राम राम दतदरुषु समुन्नत बलवत् पन्नगरि पुमुगनिम्मुद विगग दतदरुषु समुन्नत बलवत् पन्नगरि पुमुगनिम्मुद विगग उन्मत्ता इव सन्नतायुधि मन्यन्ते मुहुरिगगलु योगु उन्मत्ता इव सन्नतायुधि मन्यन्ते मुहुरिगगलु योगु राम राम विजरामो वयं राम राम विजरामो नन्दनं वनमेद मुखमितं नाना नन्दनं वनमेद Sakalashmini Sakamadurata Sangita Vibhavam Uttabala Sumamudrita Valli Sakamadurata Sangita Vibhavam Jagda Samsatti Vimanameda Chetasprugayati Divyavaduna Jagda Samsatti Vimanameda Chetasprugayati Divyavaduna Rama Rama Vijay Rama Vayam Ramyavandari Gaura Madhura Rama Rama Vijay Rama Vayam Swargarohana Sobhana Bhakti Rivam Swargarohana Sobhana Bhakti Rivam Suralokavadi Sundara Vitapa Mirgali Gopam Atiravani Yoni Dati Ninnuta Sagala Santapa Vibhuti Ninnuta Sagala Santapa Vibhuti Priya Iva Bandhu Nayamigam Tandarte Gila Sadaramasman Priya Iva Bandhu Nayamigam Tandarte Gila Sadaramasman Mandasmer Sudha Madhusechana Mangala Purva Magovanadesha Mangala Purva Magovanadesha Narayana Panitam Ramaniyam Nilodhara Gira Balabhadram Narayana Panitam Ramani Nilodhara Gira Balabhadram Nirogauga Nivarana Medam Narayana Tirtharya Sudhadi Nirogauga Nivarana Medam Narayana Tirtharya Rama Rama Vijay Rama Vayam Ramyavandari Vanamaruna Rama Rama Vayam Ramyavandīrakam Vanamaruna.
In the song that we just now listened, Tirtha excels himself in some of the expressions somewhat rarely used. The first set of words or phrase that was used in the song, Chandra Kantopala Mani Valukam, Charudara Jari Sundara Salilam. Sand particles together with pebbles of Chandrakanta Mani or the moonstones fill these gentle and beautiful streams. And in the other paragraph, he says, Unnata Tarushu, Samunnata Bhalavatu, Pannaga Ripu. Great birds such as Garuda's clan living on the tall, gigantic trees. And then another expression that comes in the third stanza is Katha Samsad Divi Vanameta Ketas Prahayati Divya Vadunam. Celestial damsels would really drop everything and leave Nandanavana, not Nandavana, Nandanavana, that is Indra's garden, to enjoy the pleasure of strolling in this forest, namely BhanDeerakam. Such is the beauty that the damsels would even simply abandon Indra's garden to come to this place. Lastly, Krishna says, Swargarohana Sopana Panktiriva. Swarga Arohana Sopana Panktiriva. Suralokavadhi Sundara Vitapaha. Branches of gigantic tall trees appear, although they are like steps to the heaven. Such is the height of these trees. Of course, there is an important expression made in the fifth stanza. Bandhu Priya Iva, Bandhu Nayamiga, Sandatte Kila Sadaram Asman. Bandhu Priya Iva, Bandhu Nayamiga, Sandatte Kila Sadaram Asman. This expression, in my opinion, takes the cake in the whole song. People are generally hospitable I mean, in the times of Tirtha centuries ago. I'm not saying now. But here we are not talking about generally hospitable folks. Krishna mentions about the hosts who are not only welcoming but eagerly awaiting. In other words, the generally hospitable folks would not mind sharing anything with the people who walk into their lives. But these special hosts we are talking about, or Krishna is talking about, are Bandhu Priya Iva Bandhu Nayamiga Sandatte Kila Sadaram Asman, because they are just waiting to host. I am reminded of Atharva Samhita or Atharva Veda Samhita in the Saunaka recension, which is the third subchapter in the chapter number 6 of 7th Anuvaka. Yadva Atiti Patihi Atitin Pratipashyati Devayajanam Prekshate. A very profound statement. Yadva Atiti Patir Atitin Pratipashyati Devayajanam Prekshate. This is in Atharva Veda Samhita. Truly, when a host looks at his guest, he looks at the place of sacrifice to the Devas. In the same 9th Anuvaka, 6th sub-recension, 53rd subchapter, the expansion goes like this. Yadva atitipatihi atitin parivishya grihanupo daityava britameva tad upavaiti. In this particular recension, the meaning is, or if the host having offered food to his guest goes up to the house, he virtually enters the bath of purification. As if he had done a Punya Tirtha visit and is gone to a kshetram and taken the holy bath. Finally, Tirtha caps it all. He says in the final analysis in the song, Dhiro Dattagira Balabhadram Gora Gauga Nivaranam Etat. Dhiro Dattagira Balabhadram Gora Gauga Nivaranam Etat. These are the words of Krishna to Balarama in the form of a beautiful song. He says that dispels even the worst of sins. But we should take time to listen to this Leela, especially the song of Krishna, to absorb it in the heart and sing his praise. We generally talk about when we are saying that the very praise of Baladeva will dispel all the sins or the worst of sins. I'm only reminded of Andal in her Tirupave Pasuram 5 in Mayane Mannu Vadamadure Maindane. She uses the expression Vainal Padi Manathinal Sindittal Avan Poyabrayam Pugudaruan Indranavum Teenil Tusagum Shepu. This is what she says in Tirupave. The operating statement is Teenil Tusagum Shepelo Rambavaya or Teenil Tusagum Shepu. What is the Teenil Tusagum Shepu and when does it come? There are some reasons and there are some essentials in order to get to that point. Vainal Padi, you should be singing. Vainal Padi, do the Kirtanam. Manathinal Sindittal, you should do the Smaranam. You do the Smaranam, you do the Kirtanam. Vainal Padi, Manathinal Sindittal, Attahaya Kannan, Poyaprayum, Pugudaruvan, Nindranavum. Whatever you have done in the past as sins, he would wash them away. Whatever you are even going to do unawares, going forward, that also he will take care of it. How is he going to take care of all these sins? Tiyinil Tusagum Sheppu. He will burn them all as if the dust is burnt by the raging fire. This Tirupave, as you may be aware, is about Trikarana Suddhi, Vainal Padi Manathinal Sindittal, which he has talked about in a couple of other places as well in same Tirupave. Why particular about Trikarana Suddhi? Patinathar was saying, Kayondru Seyya Vizhiyondru Nada Karutondru Yenna Poyyondru Vanjaka Navondru Pesha Pulala Kamaram Vizhiyondru Sara Seviyondru Ketke Virimbiyan Seygindru Pusei Ebbaru Gulvai Vene Tirthavane. The question that Patinathar raised is, unless everything is in sync with me, how can I really do the puja or the prayer? And that's why he says in Trikarana Suddhi, he is detailing it in a very complex sentence. Kayondru Seyya, Vizhiyondru Nada, Karutondru Yenna, Poyyondru Vanjaka, Navondru Pesha, Pulala Kamaram Mayyondru, Sara Seviyondru Ketka Virimbiyan Seygindru Pusei Ebbaru Gulvai Vene Tirthavane. This is the famous Patinathar. That is why if you do everything else, the Vinay automatically will go away. So Vainal Padi Manathinal Sindittal, Bhagavan will take care of all the Poyabrayam Pugudaruvan Indranam Tiyinil Tusu. Understood. But why did Andal emphasize Tiyinil Tusagam? There are other ways of really dispelling the sins. Why should it be like dust being burnt by fire? We can enjoy the same sentiment which Andal brought out by Arunagiri also. In Kandar Alangaram, in number 40, most of you are familiar with Kandar Alangaram, at least in the Satsangam members. I know how many of you are intensely familiar with that. One of the sayuls stands out. செயல்பட்டு அழிந்தது செந்தூர் வயல் பொழில் தேம் கடம்பின் மால்பட்டு அழிந்தது பூங்கொடியார் மனம் மாமயிலோன் வேல்பட்டு அழிந்தது வேலையும் சூரனும் வெற்பும் அவன் கால்பட்டு அழிந்தது இங்கு என் தலைமேல் ஐயன் கையெழுத்தே. This is Arunagiri. What a fabulous poetry. To put simplistically the meaning, because it's an exquisite Tamil poetry, I will attempt a Tamil explanation. சேல் என்னும் மீன்கள் குதித்து திரிவதனால் திருச்செந்தூரிலுள்ள வயல்கள் எல்லாம் அழிந்து போயிட்டான். Because of all the jumping fish, especially the type of fish he's talking about is sail. And in Tiruchendur, all the farmlands have been destroyed because they have been jumping up and down. மரக்கொடி போன்ற பெண்களின் மனமானது சோலையில் உள்ள இனிமையான கடப்ப மலர் மாலையை விரும்பியதால் அதுவும் அழிந்து போயிற்று. பெருமை தங்கிய மயில் வாகனத்தை உடைய திருமுருகப் பெருமானது வேலாயுதம் பட்டதால் கடலும் சூரபத்மனும் கிரௌஞ்சமலையும் அழிந்து போயின. இவ்வுலகில் கந்தவேளின் திருவடிகள் அடியேனின் தலைமீது பட்டதால் பிரமனால் எழுதப்பட்டிருந்த விதி என்னும் கையெழுத்தும் அழிந்தே போயிற்று. In other words, he gave a lot of comparisons as to what happened to him, and he compared them to சேல் எனும் மீன்கள் குதித்து திரியும் திருச்செந்தூர் வயல்கள், கொடி போன்ற பெண்களின் மனமானது சோலையில் உள்ள இனிமையான கடம்ப மலர் மாலையை விரும்பியதால் அழிந்து போயிற்று, மாட்சிமை தங்கிய மயில் வாகனத்தை உடைய திருமுருக பெருமானுடைய வேலாயுதம் பட்டதால் கடலும் சூரபத்மனும் கிரௌஞ்சமலையும் அழிந்து போயிற்று, கந்தவேளியின் திருவடிகள் என் தலைமேல் பட்டதால் பிரமனால் எழுதப்பட்டிருந்த விதி என்னும் கையெழுத்தும் அழிந்து போயிற்று. All great men, self-realized souls, spoke in different languages and poetic expressions, but they all converged in a single dicta which Bhishmacharya reiterated before he decided to leave his body and reach Paramatma at his own will and volition, as was the boon given to him. அவர் நினைத்த போது இந்த தேகத்தை விட்டு பரமபதம் செல்லும் பாக்கியத்தை பகவான் அவருக்கு வரனாக அளித்திருந்தார். That is the greatness of Bhishmacharya. In Mahabharata, in the 13th chapter, 8th subchapter, and 16th sloka, especially in Anusasana Parva. Anusasana Parva means the book of instructions. And Bhishmacharya says, Karmana manasa vapi vacha vapi parantapa. Karmana manasa vapi vacha vapi parantapa. Yena me kritam brahmaneshu tenadya na tapamya aham. In consequence of what I may have done to the Brahmanas, in thought, word, and deed, I do not feel any pain now. In other words, I must have done something good, especially to the Brahmanas who really pursue the Brahman. That may be the reason why. Even if I have done anything unawares in word or deed or thought, now I am enjoying it. I do not feel any pain now, even though I am lying on a bed of arrows. The emphasis here is whatever is done, one without the other has little consequence. Bad things emerge, yes, but no good emerges unless all three, namely the Trikarana Suddhi, is understood and demonstrated. Let us also see a great anecdote from the life of Mahapariva that puts the whole thing in a very simple perspective. There was a time one day when the public exam results were out and Periva was asking the students who went to him that evening about the results and their marks in each of the subjects. Periva always had special attraction to the young ones. Even if the young students did not know how to approach Periva, the god who walked on earth. He developed a strong bond with them. So when the students were also jubilant, finished their exams, and when the results were out, they wanted to share the fine, happy results with Parivar. The youngsters did not understand that Sakshat Bhagavan is asking such questions because Parivar was curious. How many marks you got and which subject you got what? There was a reason why he asked the question. They all enjoyed it as great fun. But suddenly, Parivar turned around and asked them point blank a question. I have a question for all of you. If you get 90% in physics, 60% in chemistry, and 20% in mathematics in your final exams, can you or will you be considered to pass the final exams? The youngsters were kind of shocked probably for a second or two, but they all said in a resounding chorus, answer is simple, because 90% in physics is okay, 60% in chemistry is also okay, but 20% in maths is not okay. So the ultimate result will be, we will fail in the final exams, no matter what we got in all other subjects. Then Mahaswami asked a very inquiring question, why? One smart aleck in the crowd took the lead to muffle the chorus and started explaining the examination rules to the Chancellor Supremo, Kanchi Mahaparivar. And that fellow was saying, Swamigale, you need to pass all the three subjects or maybe pass each one of them to clear the examinations, otherwise you fail. It was now Parivar's turn to laugh. Of course, he laughed gently. He kept his face innocently and said, is that so? Supposing you are very good in talk or speech, let's say you are excellent in talking or speech and you get 90%. In your actions also, you are good to get 60%. So talk is okay, 90%. Actions are okay, you get 60%. But you are very weak in thoughts and you end up getting 20%. The same logic of physics, chemistry, and mathematics, 90%, 60%, and 20%. Let us apply it to speech 90%, actions 60%, and thoughts 20%. Can you be considered to pass in examinations set by the standard, namely the Lord Almighty? Bhagavan places an exam into you. When we talk of Trikarana Shuddhi, there should be talk, and there should be actions, and there should be thoughts. That's why we use the word Manasa Vacha Karmani. And we put Manasa first, and then the Vacha talk, and Karmani, then the actions. There was pin drop silence in the hall. And the youngsters didn't know what to ask, and they understood actually what Parivar was trying to explain here. It's not necessarily physics, chemistry, and maths. Parivar continued, just as you cannot pass your academic exams without passing in all the subjects, you cannot also pass in Bhagavan's examinations to you in your life without doing well in Manasa, Vacha, Karmani, all in sync. And you have to definitely pass at least 60% or 70% in each one of them. There is no question of 90, 60, and 20. Thoughts and words and deeds have to certainly get the pass mark in order to get his grace. That's why your elders insist on Trikarana Shuddhi, the basic stepping stone to the divine journey to reach the Supreme. Let us now see an important clarification to an apparent controversy in description of what is BhanDeerakam. BhanDeerakam, as per Naranatirtha, is a beautiful, magnificent, gorgeous vanam or forest. BhanDeeraka vanam. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dasamaskanda, 18th chapter, Sukha says, Vahanto Vahyamanascha Charayantascha Godhanam BhanDeerakam Nama Vatam Jagmuhu Krishna Purogamaha. Simplistically, when we translate this, it says, carrying and being carried by one another, and at the same time tending the cows. The Gopalaka boys followed Krishna to a banyan tree known as BhanDeeraka. Maybe the Tirtha named the forest in which the famous BhanDeeraka banyan tree was situated as BhanDeerakam or BhanDeeraka Vanam. The context of this is based on Vishnu Purana. Let us see what Vishnu Purana has to say about this BhanDeerakam banyan tree. In the fifth major chapter of Vishnu Purana, ninth subchapter, there is a mention, Harina Kridanam Nama Bala Kridanakam Tataha. Harina Kridanam Nama Bala Kridanakam Tataha Prakridatahi Te Sarve Dvau Dvau Yugapadu Utpatan. They then played the childhood game known as Harina Kridanam, in which each boy paired off with an opponent and all the boys simultaneously attacked their respective rivals. That is when they came across a huge banyan tree, as explained in Harivamsa. Sri Harivamsa, Vishnu Parva, chapter 11, explains beautifully in 5 slokas what BhanDeerakam was. Dadarsha Vipulo Dadra Shakinam Sakinam Varam Stitam Dharanyam Meghavam Nibidam Dala Sanchayehi Gaganaha Dochcharitakaram Parvata Bhogar Dharinam Neela Chitranga Varnescha Sevitam Bahubihi Kagaihi Palaihi Pravalaischa Ganaihi Sendra Chab Ganopamam Bhavanakara Vitapam Lata Pushpa Samanditam Vishala Mula Vatanam Pavanamboda Dharinam Adipatyam Ivanyesham Tasya Desasya Shakinam Kurbanam Subhakarmanam Niravarsham Anatapam Nyagrodam Parvatagravam Banderam Nama Namataha. The explanation goes in Harivamsa like this. The boys saw the best of all trees, which had many long branches. With its dense covering of leaves, it resembled a cloud sitting on the earth. Indeed, its form was so large that it appeared like a mountain covering half of the sky. Many birds with charming blue wings frequented that great tree, the banyan tree, BhanDeerakam, whose dense fruits and leaves made it seem like a cloud accompanied by a rainbow, or like a house decorated with creepers and flowers, just like we decorate homes with toranam. It spread its broad roots downward and carried upon itself the sanctified clouds. That banyan tree was like the regal master of all other trees in the vicinity, as it performed all the auspicious functions of warding off the rain and the heat of the sun. Such is the appearance of the Nyagrodha tree known as Bandira. Nyagrodha tree known as Bandira, which seemed just like the peak of the majestic mountain. That's how Harivamsa explains it. Let's go to Srimad Bhagavatam and Narayaniyam a bit later to take a closer look at Harivamsa and Vishnu Purana that elaborates the game. But now proceed with the opera where Tirtha explains the next Leela where Krishna, the Mayavi, prompts Baladeva and Gopalakas to play. The game was known as the winners would climb up on the backs of the losers and who would have to carry them. Why did Krishna choose this special game? Many of you may be aware of a southerner nomenclature. If you come from southern India, they call Upumute Sumata. So the fellow who has lost the game will have to carry the winner on his back, just like they are carrying a bag of salt. Let us listen to this 108, 109, 10, 11, and 12, 5 slokams that explain the entire process and the game and all that in the words of Narayana Tirtha.
Gayam Gayam Vanamadashanaihi Gayam Gayam Vanamadashanaihi Gopabalai Sameta Gopabalai Gayam Gayam Vanamadashanaihi Gopabalai Sameta Deyam Karatalamiti Pritida Tadayam Deya प्रीतिदत्ताडयं सत् पायं 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 सरसवचनाह्लाद 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 पीयूषधारय पीयूषधारं सोऽयं मायी प्रविशति मुकुर्वादयन् वेणुमीशगाय वेणुमीशग वेणुमीश क्रीडं क्रीडं क्रीडावरब्धवान् कृष्ण क्रीडाम् आरब्धवान् कृष्णो जयशीलान् पराजिता जयशीलान् पराजिता स्कन्धे वहन्ति यस्यां तं बालकैः सह सम्भ्रमा प्रलम्बो नाम गोपालवेषधारी महासुरः प्रलम्बो नाम गोपालवेषधारी प्रलम्बो नाम गोपाल वेषधारी महासुरः पराजितो रोहिणेयं पराजितो रोहिणेयं पराजितो रोहिणेयं स्कन्देनोड्वा पलायितः पलायितः संकेतस्थानमुल्लङ्घ्य पलायनपरो बलः पलायनपरो बलः मां नयत्येष किं कार्यं वद कृष्णेति कृष्णोति अभाषत
You saw in the slokams and the slides that were actually given as the backdrop to get an understanding of these slokams, the cute Balakrishna was regularly singing and entertaining the cowherd boys And he was also often chasing and clapping his hands on his friends' palms. And he reciprocated their pranks and fun, chatting and singing pleasingly Amritam-like phrases to their ears. But the Mayavi also occasionally played the magical flute that was making the celestials also ecstatic, and the entire world was watching all this fun as these boys were entering the BhanDeerakam forest. Of course, the game that is explained here, that the friends were beating each other's palms, has come to today. In fact, this started in probably Dwapara Yugam or something. Now it is continued even today. That game is nothing but they call it red hands, also known as hot hands or slapsies or slapjack, red tomato. That's in northern Britain. Somebody has to extend the palm and the other fellow will bash it, so he has to dodge it. So it's called the Pope slap or simply the hand slap game. That was the one which Krishna was inducing everybody to play. Then in the other slokam, Krishna plays the game. He starts the game and explains the rules, where the losers of a game would carry the winners on their shoulders with great enthusiasm with the Gopalakas. Of course, I told you there was a reason why Krishna chose this game, because in that game, a vicious monster named Pralamba, one of minions of Kamsa, who had disguised himself as another Gopalaka, nobody could even detect, quietly came and participated in the game. But Balarama somehow chooses that boy to play the game one-on-one, and he defeats him. As per the rules of the game, Pralamba had to carry Balarama on his shoulder. But the minute he started doing it, he ran so fast that even before other people could decide as to what was happening, he took Balarama on his shoulders and ran. And Balarama asked the question in the words of Narayana Tirtha, Sanketa sthanam ullangya palayana paro balaha. Balarama then asked Krishna, oh Krishna, this fellow is carrying me far beyond our place of our game, and I'm just going along with the mood now. What do you want me to do? He was shouting from there and says, he's running now, he's carrying me. Should I get down or should I do something? Of course, Krishna says he's fully knowledgeable as to what's going on, and he is also very fully aware that what Balarama is, who Balarama was. So he explains the remarkable and extraordinary strength of Balarama, and also tells Balarama, you are invincible by any and all enemies. So he addresses his brother in the form of a song. So we are now going to listen to the slokam as well as the Geetam 41 that follows, which explains Krishna explaining to Balarama about his prowess and what he is supposed to do. This might remind you of what happened when Hanuman was not quite sure of his power. Jamban had to explain to him how powerful he was and what he was capable of. So it is somewhat similar to this. Here now Baladeva was asking a question, what should I do? This fellow is running away, carrying me on his back. And Krishna says, don't worry, I'll tell you what you need to do. That's what we are going to listen now.
Viryamavedayan Krishna Viryamavedayan Krishna Balabhadrasya Dhimataha Viryamavedayan Krishna Balabhadrasya Dhimataha Idamaga Mahaviryam Aryam Balasamunnata Idamaga Mahaviryam Aryam Balasamunnatam Tavato Parabhava Madhusvara Rama Tavato Parabhavam Anusmaram Tamra सेवक संकल्प सीततनो परदैवत नरभाव भावनयालो सेवक संकल्प सीततनो परदैवत नरभाव भावनयालो सेवक संकल्प सीततनो परदैवत नरभाव भावनयालो तावको हरभावं अनुस्मर तां तां स्मरतवातुल बलम् अतिवीर्यं सागसच बलभद्रतां वीर्यं स्मरतवातुल बलम् अतिवीर्यं सागसच बलभद्रतां वीर्यं नरवपुर्धरम् असुरमिमं जयि नगवरादिग धैर्य दुर्वीर्यं नरवपुर्धरम् असुरमिमं जयि नगवरादिग धैर्य दुर्वीर्यं तावक परभावम् अनुस्वर तां अघटितं घटयति तव माया अघटितं घटयति तव माया अखिल लोक जननी राम अखिल लोक जननी राम विघटित भव बन्धमूलमोग विघटित भव बन्धमूलमोग विशुद्ध विपुल बोधानन्द रसघन जय तावक परभावम् अनुस्मर तां राम तावक परभावम् अनुस्मरता राम केलने समयो नायमिग राम केलने समयो नायमिग राम बलनीलाम्बर तव वो राम बलनीलाम्बर तव वो राम तालपदाक ताडय कुलीलं नवकेलन मित्रं अमर शत्रुभृत्यं तालपदाक ताडय कुलीलं कामकेलन मित्रं अमर शत्रुभृत्यं लोकबन्धु पणितं एतत् आश्रित चोकमूल हरणं लोकबन्धु पणितं एतदाश्रित शोकमूल हरणं भक्त संसिद्धि साधक चीगरी भक्त नारायण
Lokabandhu Panitam Yedad Ashrita Shoka Mula Haranam Bhakta Samsiddhi Sadhaka Srihari Bhakta Narayana Tirthabharanam. This praise or this song emanated from the friend of all the worlds, Lokabandhu Panitam. Who sang? This is the friend of all the worlds. Bhagavan Krishna sang this. And who is he? He destroys the root of the sorrow of all who take refuge in him. Not only destroys all the sorrows, the very root of the sorrow, only he is capable of destroying it. So when he cuts the root, and there are going to be no more sorrows growing. And this is a very nice expression here. Bhakta Samsiddhi Sadhaka Shri Hari Bhakta Narayana Tirthabharana. This particular song is the instrument for the final beatitude of devotees and is a decoration to that great worshipper of Sri Hari. Who is he? Narayana Tirtha. Only Narayana Tirtha thought it fit to make Krishna sing the praise of his elder brother, Baladeva, who was no one else than himself or Adisesha born as Balabhadra for a purpose. You saw the meaning shown in the slide, but something that's worth highlighting is the usage, Aghatitam Gathayati Tava Maya. Aghatitam Gatayati Tava Maya. It is noteworthy that Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada says in his Maya Panchakam, incidentally, I have said it in many times in the prior discussions in Srimad Bhagavatam, Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada's time has now been fixed to be at least 2,200 years back, 2 centuries before the Common Era. So in his Maya Panchakam, in the very first slokam, he says, Nirupama Nitya Niramsakepi Akhande Mayi Chiti Sarva Vikalpanadi Shunye Gatayati Jagadisha Jiva Vedam Tva Gatita Gatana Patiyasi Maya. This first slokam of Maya Panchakam says, Maya, which is very skillful in accomplishing the impossible things about the distinctions of the world. What are they? Ishvara and Jiva in my consciousness, which is unique and eternal, partless and impartite, namely undivided, and which is free from all distinctions. This is how Paramacharya defined the above slokam when he explained Maya Panchakam of Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada. Paramacharya wrote a meaning for this. And his meaning is the one which I was quoting. Maya is skillful in accomplishing impossible things that brings about the distinctions in the world. Nirupama Nitya Niramshakepi Akande Mayi Chiti Sarva Vikalpanadi Shunye Gatayati Jagadisa Jiva Vedam Tva Gatita Gatana Patiyasi Maya. Bhagavad Pada was a bit more direct. He said, Maya, which is adept at making the impossible happen, superimposes on me, the Atman, who is in reality pure consciousness, who is incomparable because the Atman is the only reality and there is therefore nothing else with which it can be compared. And Brahman is eternal, partless and inseparable, unlimited by space, time and other objects, in whom there is no differentiation whatsoever. The distinctions in the form of the world, God and the individual soul. So we should nevertheless remember one thing. The world, God and the individual soul appear to be different from one another only because of the limiting adjuncts that follow or that surround. Intrinsically, there is neither difference nor identity among them, for all the three are in essence pure, are characterized by 3 important things. Namely, I spoke about this earlier, ignorance, namely avidya, desire, which is kama, and action, the karma. It is called the transmigrating individual soul. So when the limiting adjunct is the power of eternal and unlimited knowledge, which is Maya, the same self is known as God who is the Antaryamin or inner controller of the entire cosmos. The same self, free from all limiting adjuncts, is again nothing but Brahman. Who said that? It's a Veda Vakyam. In Brihadaranya Upanishad, in the 3rd chapter, in the 8th subchapter, the 12th sloka is very clear. And for that, Shankara Bhagavad-pada has given the Bhashyam. The Bhashyam is something which I summarized earlier. And the actual sloka of Brihadaranya Upanishad goes like this. Sahovacha Brahmana Bhagavantaha Tadeva Bahumanyedvam Yadasmang Namaskarena Muchyedvam Navaijatu Yushmakam Imam Kaschide Brahmodhyam Jeteti Tato Gavachaknu Avyupararama Ityushtamam Brahmanam. We will see more of this special episode next week. Narayana 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 Narayana. Hare Krishna, Thiruvaiyaru, Narayana, Narayana.